Welcome to Career Tools. This week, working out, what you need to know. Here we go. Folks, if you haven't been to our Effective Manager Conference, we encourage you to give it a look on the website. You'll learn the 4 things every great manager knows about being effective. Know your people, talk about performance, ask for more, and push work down. If you don't know what those 4 things are, you're probably not a great manager and could use it. Okay, Wendy, we've got a lot of questions about working out over the years, and do I have to take a shower, and there's no time, and can I do it at lunch?
My bag?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was reminded of this cast recently when we were talking about briefcases, and I read in the Wall Street Journal a quote from an executive which says, if someone brings a gym bag to work, I assume he or she is going to work out. If someone brings a backpack, I assume they're not serious. Okay, but look, working out is necessary. Our bodies were meant to be physical and to do things, and many of us have very sedentary lives, and we probably eat too much, and we need to do something to stay fit for a long life, and to be smart, a la the famous Latin slogan, mens sana in corpore sana, which means sound mind and a sound body. And the whole point of that is, if your body is not healthy, if you're not fit, it is unlikely that you can be highly effective at work. And if you think you're highly effective at work and you're not fit, wait to see how much better you'll be when you do get fit. We want you to live a long time, and we want you to make good decisions all throughout your workday and not be crabby and mean to everybody at the end of the day, the way so many unfit people have a tendency to be, unfortunately. Okay, so walk us through it, Wendy.
Okay, so not every workday, not based on the workout. Have a shower. When you miss, it's gone, and don't talk about it. The outline
I like the last one, but don't talk about it.
The outline is very cryptic this week.
It is. It really is. It doesn't. Not every workday. I wouldn't know what that is from necessarily without digging into it. So let's dig into it.
Before we go any further, for everyone who doesn't speak American English, working out does not mean the piece between the equation and QED. That's your working out.
In other words, maths.
Yes,
which you
and
have
the
since
calculations.
Yes, you have since discovered that maths is not an abbreviation of mathematics. It's just a random error in the British side of the language. Okay.
But working out in this context means taking exercise.
Or doing a fitness routine of some sort. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so you say not every workday.
Yeah, and we're gonna say this probably 20 times in the cast or in the recording, that if you're a professional, your workout does not come before your work. It's that simple. Work comes first.
Okay. Well, there are some young people, though, that would say, I want to stay fit. I was fit in college. I was an athlete in college. It does. Right now, early in my career, I don't love my job. And so the one thing I'm not going to mess with is my workout.
And we support you working out and keeping yourself in a state where you feel most productive and most best in your life, but you can't act as if your workout is sacrosanct and the work is kind of secondary if you want to be successful. You can't work out every day and just leave your team to deal with every crisis. You can't leave your desk for 2 hours in the middle of the day and expect nobody to comment on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, if you work out every day, literally, in other words, what we're saying is not every work day. When you're saying you can't work out every day, what you're saying is if you do, if that becomes something that never changes, then what you're saying is this takes precedence over anything at work, no matter how urgent, no matter how disastrous, no matter how personal for someone on my team, or no matter how much someone needs a favor, and I might have to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to work out.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Who would do that, right? Well, people would do that, which is why we're trying to encourage them not to. But, who would say, oh, yeah, well, I know the client's screaming at you, but I have to have my run. Okay, you are not going to die if you have your run, and you may lose the client.
Yeah, well, this is very similar to our guidance about going home every day at a reasonable hour. We don't say that there should be no day ever that you go home after 6 o'clock at night, as an example. The reason we say go home every day at reasonable hours is because your family does come first. That doesn't mean your family comes first is an absolute, and there aren't times where you may have to work till 10 o'clock at night. It does happen. We don't want you to be in a job where it happens 3 days a week, but those jobs are pretty rare anyway, other than perhaps on Wall Street or in certain halls of government. But what we say is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And so therefore, if you put family first, there are times where every once in a while your work will herniate into your family life. But if you set a steady example of family coming first, then that periodic herniation won't bother you. Same thing here. You're saying that it's okay to have a workout that's important, but it's not okay to say there will never be a day that I don't get a workout in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And even if your company allows flexi time, one of my friends is a fitness geek.
You geek? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she works flexi time, and she could take 2 hours every day for her lunch and just work the other ends. But she doesn't, because one, she works in a very operational job where there are days where she has to be there, but also because she's a team player. And even if it's not something that absolutely has to be done, but somebody else needs her help, she wants to be there for them.
What's interesting is you said she's a team player, as if to suggest there are some people who are listening who might think they're not team players. Folks, if you want to be effective, you better start defining yourself as a team player. It's not that you can't be the leader. It's not that you can't be an individual. We're okay with that. Okay? That said, if your people around you start saying you're not a team player, you're doomed.
Yeah, it's one of those big things on your review. Usually, if you've got one of those reviews, that's sent from HR and it has categories on it, team play is nearly always on it. And the other thing is, if somebody walks past your desk and they think, oh, I need to talk to Bob, and they walk past and you're not there, and that happens 3 or 4 times in a short period, you get a reputation for never being at your desk. And never being at your desk means never doing any work, even if you're up to date on everything. Yes. Reputations count. That's, results from relationships.
And you might be saying, well, gee, that means I never need to leave my desk. But I'm never going to leave my desk. No, that's not true. If somebody always stops by your desk at 12:30 every day and expects you to be there, well, okay, then they're not figuring out that that's when you go to lunch. And if you were, there are many, many studies that show the average decibel level in offices tends to go down in the middle of lunch day because there are less people working. There are less people clicking on keyboard keys. There are less people talking on the phone. There are less people meeting in the hallways, and so on. All the best acoustics in the world won't change that at 12:30 or 12:45, depending upon the culture, the behavioral set of the people at the workplace you're in. The sound and the noise goes down. So that's normal. That's okay. Isn't this a bit like saying to people, you can't multitask in the sense of, people say to us all the time, well, I have to have my phone with me. You never know if there's an urgent email or a text message that comes in. And you're kind of saying the opposite of that, right?
Yeah. The two extremes are both not the place to be. You don't want to never do anything without your phone. At one of the conferences, somebody actually told me that they take their phone into the bathroom and they answer it there, which is just scary. Yes. Extreme.
Yes.
And the other extreme is, my life comes first, and my life always, the things that are important to me outside of work always come first. And you don't want to be at either extreme, the middle.
And there's nothing wrong with saying privately, I'm trying to be, maybe you're trying to become an Olympic athlete. In that case, probably your workout's fairly extreme, in which case you'll probably reach some sort of agreement with your employer or with your boss or something like that. Those kinds of things do happen. But remember that our guidance is for 90% of the people 90% of the time. But I have to tell you something, folks. If you're one of those people who takes your phone to the bathroom, there's something wrong with you. Okay? If you're thinking, oh, my friends all do this, yes, there's something wrong with your friends too. Okay? You don't need your phone with you at all times. I was just talking to a friend whose son is going on a graduation trip, and it's 3 days, and they're going to the beach, and they're not going to be allowed to have their phones on the beach. And a couple of the kids were upset, and the parents were upset. How, I have to be able to check on my kid. I thought, how would those parents have raised children 25, 30 years ago? they wouldn't have, or that had gone with them everywhere and stunted their growth. The other side is a couple of the kids are complaining and saying, I want my phone with me all the time. And one of the parents finally said, when you're at the beach, try to enjoy the beach.
Yeah.
Right? The same thing here. Your workout is important to you. We respect it. It's not as important as the work you're doing that day. And it's certainly not so important that you should tell people by your behavior that it is more important than your work, because you can miss a day of work because you're in the hospital. And on that day, you'd probably miss your workout. What you're telling people is, if I were in the hospital, I would get out and I wouldn't come to work. I'd go do my workout, which just seems weird. Or if one of your friends were sick and you need to go visit him. No, I'm sorry. I need time off to go visit my friend. And the boss says, well, he's in the hospital. And the boss says, okay. But then you say, my friend's in the hospital. I can't go visit because I have to go work out. Your priorities aren't straight.
You're not going to have friends for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the reputation, it's the recognition that we work with other human beings, and there is a need to be respectful of that, not to become completely, solely subordinated to the team. That's not it at all. A reasonable modicum of moderation between your desires and the needs of your employer and your coworkers and your boss and your teammates. That's what we're suggesting.
Exactly.
Great. The second thing you said was not based on the workout.
Yeah. So if your normal workout is an hour, if the thing if the stations you want to go to, if the run you want to run, if the cycle route you want to cycle is an hour, you don't then get 90 minutes so that you can still have lunch and have time to shower.
But wait, Wendy, I see people all the time taking 90-minute lunches.
Yeah, well, they're not the people that are going to get ahead.
In other words, those are not the exemplars. They're not the people we should be using as an example.
To them. No,
okay?
Exactly.
Now, to be fair to us, we're not suggesting that the people who should be your exemplars are the people who never take lunch, who work through lunch. We're not suggesting the people that work till 10 o'clock at night are your exemplars either. We disagree with that as well. Okay, but what about somebody who's in training for a marathon?
Yeah, and it says they have to run 10 miles today. Well, don't do it at lunch. Do it at some other time. If you've decided you're going to run a marathon, you've made a commitment to the charity and your fitness and whatever it is that's driving you to decide that you're going to run a marathon, you have to sacrifice something else. That's the nature of life. There is only so much time, and we have to decide which things are important to us. And if you've decided a marathon's important to you, then you have to sacrifice something else. Now, given that you're paid to be in one place by your employer, it can't be that unless you're willing to give some of your salary back. Right.
So the general rule is that you're saying not 90 minutes, meaning you have to get done what you need to get done within the hour that people think of as being the lunch hour.
Exactly. You have to be gone, done it, showered, changed, and back at your desk
Back at your desk, fully functional. And by the way, not back at your desk eating your lunch for a half an hour, right?
No, exactly. Yeah. You have to eat your lunch and work if that's what you've done.
Okay.
And most people with a normal maintenance workout schedule can manage this. But, like I said, if you're training for a marathon or a triathlon or one of those ultra things that you have to be crazy for.
Which are awesome, right? If you're so into that.
Yeah. If you're really into that, then you have to find the balance elsewhere.
Yeah. In other words, unfortunately, what we're suggesting is you have to choose to steal from something other than the workplace hours because you're making a choice about your time and you're essentially, I know this sounds terrible, it's a too strong a word, you're stealing from the company. Mm-hmm. And it's inappropriate. It's not well liked by your coworkers, even when they say, wow, I really admire you doing the big workout. And then privately under their breath, they say, oh, no, he can't, I'm sorry. We have to schedule around Bob's workout schedule. Folks, really? Really? No.
I would kill someone. That blew my mind just then, the thought of scheduling a meeting around somebody's workouts. Like, what?
Right.
But it's no different from someone who's studying for an MBA or something, or someone who's got very active in their church or a big family that they want to take care of. Anybody who has big goals, and having big goals is a good thing, right? It doesn't all have to be about your career if you don't want it to be. And balance in life is a good thing. Having multiple goals is a good thing. But if you have big goals, you have to sacrifice some other things in your life. And if you want to train for the Olympics, then you probably have to get a part-time job because as I understand it, you spend more time eating calories than most of us do working.
And we're probably being unfair to those people who are really fitness buffs or fitness geeks, and they say, well, Olympics is not really my thing, but really to stay in the shape I want to be in, I have to work out 2.5 hours a day. We're not denying you that. We want you to work out as much as you want. We're just telling you there's a limit at work, and the limit is an hour. And what's more is you're going to tell us next, you have to fit a shower in that time as well.
You do.
Yeah.
Your workplace is a shared environment, and hygiene in general takes place outside of shared environments. Anything that reminds the other people around you of your bodily functions, generally, apart from eating, takes place in a room that's not shared. And so anything, if you're not showered and people notice the sweat or the smelly workout gear or whatever, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Now, look, there's nothing wrong with a gym bag, and there's nothing wrong with your smelly stuff in a gym bag underneath your desk. Wouldn't hurt to put some deodorant in there, some deodorizers. You could spray it. You can do all kinds of things. But, folks, you have to have a shower. You cannot work out hard for 40 minutes or 50 minutes and then skip the shower and come to work with your hair sweaty. Now, I would also recommend that you not come to work with your hair wet after lunch, because if you are presenting and your hair is wet from a shower because you don't have time to take care of your hair that way, and you have to give a presentation, your presentation moves from 4 until 1, that's going to affect your presentation. That said, forget about that for a minute. You have to take a shower. It is simply a matter of respect. It's part of being member of a society. And in society, you do have certain inalienable human rights, and then you also have to have respect for society. I happen to be American, Wendy's British, but in the American Constitution it says you have some rights and you are free to exercise those rights so long as they don't impinge upon other people's rights. And too often the discussions we have in the political or social spheres are about one person asserting their rights over another person. And well, this is my right, or I can do this if I want. I don't have to shower. Okay, technically, no, you don't. We're trying to give you advice on what is an appropriate and reasonable and respectful way to behave in your career. If you don't take a shower, I assure you there's a whisper campaign. You may not like the whisper campaign, but the whisper campaign against you is justified by your flaunting a reasonable social more, which is one showers after one engages in heavy perspiration environments like the gym or on a run or something like that.
Yeah, being sweaty at work is just the wrong thing. Like, everyone will talk about you, and they'll talk about you that you're stupid, that you miss the clear social cue, which is that you shouldn't be sweaty at work. And all of this applies if you come to work, if you run or bike or take some exercise in order to get to work too. So if you do your workout before work, then this applies.
Yes.
You have to have a shower between the workout and being at your desk.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with showering at the gym. And look, guys, if you want to change clothes, if you bike to work as an exercise, but it's not significant exercise, and you feel that you've not broken a sweat, but you do bike to work, we applaud you for doing so as long as it's safe. I'm amazed that people do it. And if you're biking between lanes of traffic, I really love cyclists, but I just don't feel sorry for you. I think you're insane, and I think it's a risk you ought not to take. And frankly, it's been my experience, I know I'm going to get hate mail about this, that cyclists have become a little too protective of their own rights to the expense of the streets and byways that were built for cars. That is the primary mode of transportation in much of the world today. But that said, if you cycle to work and you want to change clothes in the bathroom, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you're going to be sweaty because you didn't shower, that's a different story. Repeat our earlier guidance. But if you want to cycle to work and you want to bring a gym bag with your work clothes, they should be work clothes that meet the standard of your work environment. They shouldn't be wrinkled. And by the way, you may need to pack like you would use dry cleaning bags, like we teach people on the road with their luggage. And if you want to change in a bathroom stall, that's fine. We don't have any problem with you coming up the elevator. Now, if you're smelly, then don't get in the elevator without showering. Now, if that means you have to find a gym nearby to shower, okay, fine. If there are showers at your work, lucky you. I would minimize the amount of exposure you bring to other people if you're working out and it requires you to sweat. But there is a gray area between sweating, a full workout, and cycling to work, and we would just ask you to be sensitive. Yes, you can change at work, but be careful and don't act as if the bathroom is your bathroom at home.
Or that your office is your wardrobe, as
Yeah.
I've also seen.
Yes.
Okay, so when you miss, it's gone. This really
Yes.
is quite cryptic. So if there's something that's going on at the moment you want to go to the gym or go take your exercise and you're needed, you miss out. If you've got in your head, okay, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do this and that, and I'll be back by 2, I'll have had my shower, I'm all good on all of the rules, and at 5 to 1, all of the servers go down, and your job is to be the network guy, you have to stay. You can't say, I'm going for my workout.
Right.
The company's needs come before your wants when they're paying.
Yes. And what's interesting about that is you not only have to forego your workout, you also have to be quiet about it. We'll talk more about this in terms of not talking about it in a minute. But part of this is not just you and your choices. It's also the perception of your choices in your coworkers. If you spend the hour while you're fixing the servers complaining about not being able to work out, completely unacceptable. First of all, it's not related to the problem you're solving. Second of all, it's all about you. Third of all, it's disrespectful to other people who probably don't want to hear about your problems. The definition of friendship is not people who are around you who want to hear about your problems. Sorry, that's just not the way the world is. What about if you plan to have lunch with somebody?
It's exactly the same, you know. It doesn't matter what you plan to do at lunch. Your workout is the same as planning to have a lunch with somebody or planning to run some errands
Right.
or anything you were going to do. If there's something, we had it on Friday. I was due to have a workout and you said, we have a call. It's mandatory. Rearrange for it.
Right.
I just went, okay, then I'm not going.
Well, what you said was, I'm not going then,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I'm not denying you the chance to work out. I'm denying you the chance to work out unbeknownst to me.
Right
I didn't
then.
know this has actually happened. I'm denying you the chance to work out during that work time, which would normally be reasonable for the company to expect you to be working. Yes, we're flexible. Yes, you could work out during that time normally, but in this particular case, no.
It didn't work.
No.
And you don't know because I didn't tell you because
you didn't talk about it.
You didn't need to know, exactly. And any of those things that you plan to do at lunch, if there's a reason that you have to be at your desk, you would forgo them. And the other thing I've been thinking, which isn't in the show notes as we've been going along, is this. If you're the kind of person who manages to work out 6 days a week, and I bow down to you because I don't, missing one workout is not the end of the world.
Yeah,
Right?
really is not.
And if you miss 5 in a row, then you've got to reorganize your life.
Yeah, good. And the last point we have is don't talk about it.
Absolutely. So this whole casual workforce thing, when I was writing this, I was thinking, when I first started work, there were only landlines. And the only time it was acceptable to talk about personal things on those phones was the day you were moving house, because of the whole contracts thing is complicated.
Right?
And if a child or a family member was sick and you had to go, they were the only times we didn't talk. You know, now we have all sorts of conversations because we think our mobiles are private space. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a more senior person about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when cell phones obviously had been around for a while, but were not as ubiquitous and as powerful as they are now in 2014. And he said, I remember how stupid I felt when young people started having cell phones at the office and started taking laptops home. And I thought, oh, this is great. They're going to get to work more. What a good thing for us. We'll give them a laptop and they'll have to be on mail and so on. We'll get a couple extra hours out of them each week, at a minimum. And then he discovered that people really don't necessarily like that, and people attempt to find equilibrium in their lives. And so the way people push back against that is they talked more, they did more errands at work, they had more personal conversations at work. It would be nothing to have 3 conversations about work and then have a 15-minute, 20-minute conversation with your spouse, which when I was a kid, guys, in the 60s and 70s, my mother never spoke to my father at work ever.
No, that was exactly what I was thinking when I was writing this. If my dad came home 2 hours late from a shift, my mother didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
She just figured he had to stay for a reason.
Right. And the point is that this guy was saying, I get more work out of him. And he said the downside was, of course, people pushed back. And so they began to have these longer personal conversations. And he got frustrated one day and he chewed a couple people's heads off, like, we don't talk about personal things at work. And then he suddenly realized work had eaten up a bunch more of their time and they were simply fighting back. They were simply saying, I do have a life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of these things are good things, you know, right? Not having to call your boss Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, which I had to do when I lived in Germany, is probably a good thing. First names are probably a good thing. It makes us get on better. But on the other hand, money, relationship problems, religion, and how you stay fit, health in general is not a subject. It doesn't even build trust because it actually makes people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you have those kind of conversations, like the details of, you know, something you had to go for the doctor for, nobody wants to know.
Yes.
Nor do they want to know the details of your workout and how sweaty you got and how good it feels or any of it.
Yeah, there are some things where discretion is the better part of professionalism.
Yeah.
So look, you are a professional. And so there are some things that we don't talk about. And this is one of the things professionals don't talk about. Now, it is not a taboo. It is not religion or sex or politics. But it is close enough. It is enough about your personal life that if someone were to say, did you have a good workout? You could simply say, yes, thank you. And that's it. And then you get to work. And you don't say, oh, yeah, I did this circuit, and then I added this, and I added that. Now it's a 5-minute conversation, again, which is not work. Yeah, good. Okay, so sum us up.
So not every work day, not based on the workout. So if it says on your plan 90 minutes, you don't get 90 minutes for lunch. Have a shower. When you miss, it's gone. And don't talk about it.
Good. I think we know that exercise is good for you. We have busy lives, and lunchtime at work would be a time to do it. But fitness is still part of your personal life, and we want you to work out. And you have to make some reasonable accommodations for it not to impinge too much on your work life as a professional. Okay. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. That's it. Hopefully this is helpful, particularly for those of you who wonder what the rules are about staying fit, which we heartily recommend within the rules. Come back next week.